Good morning and welcome to the Senior Hour, which is sponsored by Comfort Keepers In-Home Care and Advanced Audiology. I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host,
Dr. Jean Dorio.
On your hometown station, KHTS. This is a show for, about, and by seniors, giving information to enhance one's quality of life. And our in-studio guest this morning is Arif Halaby of Total Financial Solutions.
Hi, guys.
Welcome.
How are you?
Good morning,
Good.
Good
And
morning.
later in the hour, we will be speaking with Kim Wall, who's an alternative medicine advocate. What are we talking about, sir?
Well, guys, about a week and a half ago, President Trump signed an executive order. Now, why this matters is it's not necessarily an executive order that says this is going to happen, but it was one regarding retirement accounts. Now, for a lot of seniors, some that are blessed or fortunate in various ways, they don't have to take money from their retirement accounts at age 70 and a half. Mm-hmm. But the IRS says they do. Mm-hmm. So it is called a required minimum distribution. So it means, what if you're still working or you don't need the funds? A required minimum distribution, or RMD, you'll also hear it called that, is subject to accounts that are what's called IRAs, or individual retirement accounts, mm-hmm. or any other type of retirement account that you are no longer working at that company. So, for example, let's say you have an IRA or a 401k at a firm and you're still working and you're 71. Mm-hmm. Well, you're not obligated to withdraw from that 401k. Mm-hmm. But if you are of age 70 and a half, the IRS requires you to start taking money from that account mm-hmm. the year that you turn 70 and a half. Mm-hmm. So if you're born in the first half of the year, it's the same year that you turn 70. If you're born in the second half of the year, it's the following year, because that's when you would turn 70 and a half. Like my wife is born in October, mm-hmm. so October plus 6 months takes you into the next year. Yeah, that's you, huh? So then there you go. So why that matters is you might say, hey, I don't need the $10,000 they're going to make me take. Doesn't matter. You have to take it out. You have to pay taxes on it, and it's no longer there in that type of account anyway, for your income, your medical needs, your inheritance.
What was the reason why this executive order was made? What was the background? Are they trying to? They are not getting enough taxes in, so they had to find another way to do it?
Well, it's just the opposite, actually.
Okay, so yeah.
Yeah, the reason this was put into place was because most people didn't live to 70 and a half, frankly. Franklin Delano Roosevelt and Lyndon Johnson, the two presidents that really presided over the Social Security and the Medicare world, mm-hmm. both of those men died at 63. Mm-hmm. So when they said, oh, you're going to get income at 65, nobody lives to 65. You know how old that is? Mm-hmm. And so they said, but just in case, even if you do, and you don't need your retirement accounts, we're going to make it so you darn rich people don't get to just hoard that money and keep it. We, the government, want our share because you haven't paid taxes on it yet. So the age 70 and a half was required as a minimum distribution out to you, which meant it was a taxable event. However, this executive order, President Trump said, look, guys, amongst other things, it was about retirement accounts in general. Mm-hmm. But the specific part related to this said, look, a lot of people are going to need this money later. So if they don't have to take it, if they don't want to withdraw money because their pension or their retirement accounts from other sources, mm-hmm. or they have rental property, or they just paid off their house, if they just don't need the funds, mm-hmm. then we're going to, I want he directed the Treasury Department, the Department of Labor, and the industries that are, the agencies that are surrounding this, mm-hmm. to come back with a solution that pushes this date out. Now, I don't know if 70 will become 72 or 75, but they're going to try to push it out.
Mm-hmm. Now, does this apply to Social Security also? Is what
it doesn't. It has no correlation to Social Security.
Okay, but the correlation is that the timing, when the last date that one has to start taking Social Security is at 70 and a half.
Well,
correct?
No, not necessarily. So Social Security itself is never required to be taken. You just stop earning a greater amount after age 70. So from 62, you can take it out. At 65, 66, 67, depending on when you were born, you have what's called the full retirement age. Mm-hmm. That's, quote, the 100% mark. And then every year after that you wait, it goes up 8%. until
To
age 70.
70 and a half.
Just 70.
70.
Yeah. And then at 70, just stays. Now, you might not need it. Maybe if you are, who knows, George Soros, the Koch brothers, the gentlemen that are billionaires that have more money than we know what to do with, they may not ever turn on Social Security. They may have paid into it for years, but they've never taken anything out. Other people might say, I just don't need the extra taxes right now. So,
But if some people, let's say they're working at 80 years old and they're putting money in from 70 to 80, that money is not, that does not increase 8% per year. That just, the amount that you would get at 70 is the same amount that you would get at 80.
well, Social Security does a 35-year run rate. So they take 35 years of the last 35 years of your working years. So every year that you work this calendar year and you haven't taken Social Security yet is a number that replaces 35 or 36 years ago. So meaning if 35 years ago you made $20,000 a year and this year you make $60,000 a year,
Does
then
it go to 80?
Yes. So
Yeah.
you'll continue to make money as the Social Security check contributions is going up.
Okay, so if you're 80 and still working, and you are contributing to Social Security,
Yes.
and so ultimately you could be making, when you're 85, and let's say at that point you want to retire, you could be making more.
You would
than
be making more. For sure you would be.
more. So it's like, so Social Security becomes like a little bit of a retirement plan too, doesn't it?
It sure does. It's actually an annuity that the government says you're putting in dollars a little bit every single year so that we're going to guarantee you a defined benefit at a later time in life that will last regardless of how much money you put in and regardless how long you live. But if you pass away, then it's
gone.
Yes.
Okay, but some people are taking that chance, and
For sure.
which is okay. And look at it this way. I mean, that's a win-win, to be honest with you. I mean, if you die at 85, and you just started taking your Social Security, you die at 86 and you just started at 85, you kind of lose to a certain degree, but you have that security that you're going to have that money.
Yeah, every year that you contribute. So if you made $60,000 this year and 35 years ago it was 20, then 60 replaces 20. So the average goes up slightly.
Yeah.
And then as that continues to happen, maybe you had some zeros. Maybe you stayed at home and raised the children. Maybe you worked part-time, whatever it was, or self-employed and you didn't contribute as much to Social Security. During those windows of times, as you're replacing zeros or you're replacing low numbers, and you haven't turned on Social Security, the automatic 8% doesn't happen anymore after 70 years old. But the new percentages, the new contribution could be substantial.
Really?
Because if you did, let's say 10%, right? 10% of 35 years is 3.5 years. So let's say you've worked 7 years. That's 10 times 2, so 20%. So if you have doubled the contribution or even just added of what you were paying, so in other words, for the next 10 years or 6 or 7 years, you're continually adding in more than you're replacing 35 years ago, then the number of Social Security, the dollars, might not be $1,500 a month. It might be $2,000 a month. Because you now have a higher bucket of dollars to divide up.
Wow.
Well, it's interesting because I retired when I was 62. Because that's when I could start taking Social Security.
Yes.
And I thought, well, if I retire at 62 and will bring this much Social Security in, what will the difference be if I work 3 more years?
Yes.
It was insignificant.
Yes.
I mean, it wouldn't have been worth it for me to work those extra 3 years until I was 65.
And you can see the change being almost, so minimal, almost irrelevant, when in that 35-year window of time, there's a lot of zeros. When there's a lot of zeros, 10 divided by 0 is still 0. 20 divided by 0 is, you're still 0. So when you're working a little bit more, if you had
A new career.
Yeah, let's say you worked from 62 to 72. And you're replacing 10 years from way back when, but these are really high earning years. you might have doubled your Social Security check by working 10 more years. But here's the trade-off, guys. And we do the math, when people ask us, we'll tell you kind of what it is. When we look at that, the trade-off is this. You have to live from age 70, usually plus 10, 12, 15 years, in order to have made more money the next day than you would have by taking it at 62. Mm-hmm. So let's say it's a 12-year difference, okay? Well, usually from age 70 to age 82, you're not as active, you're not as healthy, things don't work as well, right? Mm-hmm. You're not going to be traveling or active as much. I'd prefer that you start taking Social Security earlier if it means that you're going to use the money to have a better lifestyle.
Right.
Because usually in our 80s, we're slowing down and not traveling and not doing as much anyway. Mm-hmm. But in your 60s, it's kind of the time when you're doing things.
That's exactly
and it's better
right.
to have more money during that window of time.
So how does one, or listeners, let's say they're thinking about continuing their work, but they want to go back 35 years and see what they put into Social Security 34, 33 years ago, and calculate whether it's worthwhile. Does Social Security give you that information, or can you just go online and get it?
Sure, yeah. It's online right now. So you can actually go to SSA. It stands for Social Security Administration. Mm-hmm. So just the initials, SSA.gov, G-O-V. So SSA.gov. Mm-hmm. Scroll down, you'll see where to click. And the point is you're going to be able to have to answer certain questions. Where were you?
Security?
Yes,
Okay.
of course, your Social Security and your birthday.
Uh-huh.
But there are four addresses here. Where did you not ever live?
Uh-huh.
And then you'll say, "Oh, I never lived."
I like that security. I'm good with that. Yeah.
So there's usually 3 or 4 of those. What did you ever have a job? Which one of these jobs listed here did you actually work? Mm-hmm. And you'll see, I delivered pizza here. Mm-hmm. I worked in this warehouse, but this is my job. Mm-hmm. And if that's you, then you'll click on that. After 2, 3, 4, 5 of these. They'll say, okay, then we now believe it's you. Mm-hmm. And then you can pull up a history back pretty much from the time you started working, usually back in the 60s. And they'll say, you made $2,100 a year, you made $4,200 a year. It's kind of interesting because you get to see how much you thought was a lot of money back then because you were so excited at 16 years old to start working. And you go, oh my gosh, look at how much money I made, $1,000 this year. So as long as you earned 40 quarters, so basically 10 years. So you could have started and stopped, but each quarter has a beginning, middle, and end, and it has to count. And as long as you've earned enough money, I want to say it's $1,000 during that quarter, then it gets to count for Medicare and gets to count for Social Security. So there's a percentage for Medicare. I don't think it's 40 quarters. I'm not an expert in that field, but on the Social Security side, the income side, yes. 40 quarters. So you could have started working, stopped working, half working, a little more working. And that's very helpful because then you can track, what am I replacing? If I still work and I work and make $40,000 this year, what am I replacing 35 years ago?
Yeah.
And you can see I'm replacing 80,000. Nope, I need to take Social Security now because every year I do it, it's going to go down and down and down and down.
See, I know that 40 years ago, I started practicing medicine. But in the first 10 years, you're a slave.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
you don't get paid very much. And I can remember, at that time, boy, I was rich. I thought I was rich because, I was getting a lot of money. But in this day and age, it's like almost nothing. It's nothing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, but I'm thinking that as I am going to look at SSA.gov and find out my history, I think I'm going to find at least 25 to 35 years ago, my pay was pretty low.
Yes.
And that could give me that buffer because I know that 8% increase is going to be much higher, if I work till I'm 80 years old.
Yeah.
And then I can see where it would diminish from 8% to 5% or less, and then make a decision when I should retire. So that can help me gauge that.
And between the ages of 62 and 70, you have 2 things factoring the increase of your Social Security. Actually, three things factoring Social Security increase. Number one is that automatic 8% increase. So that happens between 62 and age 70. The second is every year that you're working and you're replacing that 35 years ago, you're replacing that income, then that can be an increase.
Okay. Does that start age 62, or when you actually start taking Social
It's
Security?
always 35 years. So let's say
it's always 35 years.
So let's say you're a child actor. We have some of those, and these are babies. Some of them, they don't even know they're actors because they're twins or triplets, and they're babies in a soap opera or something, and they're just there. Well, they're being paid $2,000 a week. These little babies, and that's a lot of money, and that counts. And they pull out Social Security and they take this, but that will never count for their Social Security payment unless they're disabled. Because if they're disabled, then it counts at a young age. But other than that, they're not going to be 62 years old when 35 years from the time they're 6 months old, right? I mean, so they're just never going to get that income. But
most of us aren't that way.
Of course.
Yeah,
so go back to 15, 16, 17 years old. Those years aren't going to count because 35 plus that number isn't 62. So what really matters is 62 minus 35. And it's really kind of in your 20s, your mid-20s, where you say, well, you know what, I've kind of established myself. I know what kind of career I'm going to have. I know what I'm going to do for a living. I kind of know where I'm going to live. You start fine-tuning that over the next few years. Then that's what you're replacing. The third way that you can have an increase between age 62 and age 70 is if the government gives an increase in pay. 1%, 2%, 3% pay raise. Depending on inflation and the economy, et cetera, we don't expect that. We have only had 1 or 2 increases in the last decade.
Very minute amount of money, too.
They would, because it's not allowed for them to take money from Social Security and move it to Medicare. So what they do instead, especially when Obamacare came out, is they needed to funnel more Medicare. So they went and said, okay, we're going to give you a 1.5% pay raise. You're like, yay. And then we're going to increase Medicare by this amount. So it went into your bucket. They taxed you on it, income tax. Then it went over to Medicare. And so it was a really crummy, sneaky way of doing it, but they laid the burden on the taxpayer and moved money into Medicare that way.
There's not much you could do about it either. There's nothing you could do about it. Well, I'm so glad that I did retire when I was 62.
Yes.
Because Russ had already retired, and we traveled. I mean, we went all over the world.
That's exciting.
And now we can't travel anymore, but we've been there and done that.
Yes.
You know? The only 2 countries we haven't been to, Africa and Egypt.
Wow.
And we had to cancel the Egyptian River Nile 2 years ago when he got sick. Yeah,
I remember that.
That's what we were going to do. And I've always wanted to see go on an African safari. One of these days I will.
Yes.
And I think we better take a break. Old Eagle Eye over there, pointing figures and everything else.
Troublemakers, what I see.
Well, it was good to have you.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Great information today.
Yeah, we'll see how this executive order turns out in the next 5-6 months as the agencies come to a conclusion.
Terrific. And we'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host, Dr. Jean Dorio, on your hometown station, KHTS.
Daily Imprints is the premier one-stop shop for custom embroidery, screen printing, and promotional products in the Santa Clarita Valley. Owners Joe and Dana have provided KHTS with quality embroidered company shirts for over 3 years. If it's new business cards or promotional products you need to enhance your image, Daily Imprints is the choice for you. Located on Lyons Avenue, stop by or call today, 661-678-0508.
Fruit arranged like flowers? What a delicious idea! Edible Arrangements specializes in creating a variety of fresh fruit arrangements overflowing with fresh, hand-designed fruit and filled with strawberries, pineapple, grapes, cantaloupe, honeydew, and seasonal favorites. Made to order in a size you select and ready to eat and enjoy. You can even add chocolate to any arrangement. Edible Arrangements is always fresh, always appropriate, and always appreciated. Order yours today, 253-0052 or ediblearrangements.com. Edible Arrangements is on Soledad near Bouquet Canyon.
Laura's Diner It's the perfect place to go when you're in the mood for some hometown food. Located on Sierra Highway just north of Via Princesa, Laura's Diner offers all the quintessential diner foods like burgers, club sandwiches, and breakfast served all day. Kids' meals are also available. You'll be greeted by a friendly staff and served fresh made-to-order food. Laura prides herself with knowing her regular customers and their orders. Laura's Diner, serving breakfast and lunch daily.
At Advanced Audiology, we know how important hearing is to you, your loved ones, your work success, your safety, and your ability to stay in the game. Most people won't admit hearing loss to themselves or others. We make it easy for you. Today's digital hearing aids come in a variety of styles, including invisible. All feature-rich, providing unparalleled hearing quality, wearing comfort, and automation that simplifies your life. Don't be fooled by our imitators. There's only one Advanced Audiology with the purple sign next to AAA on Valencia Boulevard.
Santa Clarita's hometown station.
Now FM, 98.1 FM and AM-1220, your hometown station.
Will you still need me? Will you still feed me when I'm 64?
Welcome back to the Senior Hour. I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host, Dr. Jean Dorio, on your hometown station, KHTS. And our guest now is Kim Wall.
Hi,
who's
guys.
an alternative medicine advocate.
I am. And you know what?
Yes.
I came in here today to share another one of those life-changing moments with you guys. Remember how I talked last week about my daughter's wedding?
Yes.
You know, it just makes you look at life and things and value and, you know, really appreciate what truth is in this world.
Yes.
So I'm coming to you today because I propose that I want to bring it as a Kim's Cannabis Corner. I want to start to help educate. I've decided to put homeopathy over here on my shoulder for the moment. And I really want to focus on cannabis and hemp because I want our American people, and why I'm so advocate about this is because one of the largest populations that could benefit from the pain, the sleep, everything else are our seniors.
Seniors, absolutely.
So if we can give the seniors the verbiage to be able to understand what's happening, because, you know, there is a shift happening. California, the last laws that passed really weren't in the favor of the little guys. They were more the corporations, but that doesn't mean we have to lose the value of the tool. So I wanted to bring to you guys that, you know, maybe from here out for a few months, you know, maybe you can we can get some questions or some ideas that way to, what can we do to help bring this conversation to the people that need to have it? Because, and it's really funny because the actual largest growing population of cannabis consumers are
Seniors.
65 and above.
Seniors, you
and
aren't
and it's
kidding.
interesting because, you know, they come from that generation of possibly having that in their life. But the key is this, you know, I read this article the other day about this whole opioid addiction issue, and the gentleman behind one of these opioid drugs, the creator, who has the patent on it, has now come out with a new drug to help with opioid addictions.
Can you believe that?
Right? Okay, that just makes my skin crawl
Yep,
in
yep.
ways I can't even tell you. So the only thing we can really do about the insanity of Big Pharma is we need to educate ourselves. Because in the game of Big Pharma, Bayer Pharmaceutical Company has right there on the tip of the scale right now a whole plant cannabis CBD THC formula to hit the market. Now, it can't hit the market right now. Why? Because it's a class 1.
Schedule 1 drug.
Exactly. So you know they're going to do some legislation to do something to get that through. We can fight Big Pharma with our dollars. We really can. But what's going to help us fight them the most is our own verbiage and education amongst ourselves as a community. And the most important relationship in this therefore would be between that patient and the doctor. Or that patient and, I know this might be an odd word, but a bud tender. Somebody that understands the cannabis and understands, you know, I'm coming to this and I have severe pain. So what would I use? Well, you know, you're going to want a product that's high in CBD because that's going to address the pain factors better than THC would.
Amen.
So, right, Barb?
Yes.
It saved me. I'm going to tell you, it saved me
me
in this last year with my back. Exactly. And think of the seniors, because with the cycle of a senior, in the aging cycle, because of the lack of movement and things, when we put something like an opioid in there that's going to affect them neurologically, balance, constipation. I mean,
And addiction.
well, of course, the addiction part, but I mean, even putting that aside, you're right, because that once they're in it, they're in
That's
it.
it. They're done.
But to think of all the physical body mechanics that change because of that, when we could offer an alternative, and why I want to be this advocate focused this way in this next coming year or whatever, is because I've seen it, like you, Barbara, time and time again, change the quality of somebody's life.
It
now,
changed mine.
Can I slam 4 Advils and make my pain go away? I probably can, but what am I going to do to my kidneys? Why is kidney disease rampant and growing as one of the biggest diseases happening in our culture? Is it because of these drugs and chemicals we're putting in our body?
Right.
And you're right, Barb. You can bring a story. I can bring a story. And the whole thing, and that was kind of the thing that really, again, in that whole soul-searching thing here, I've been a cannabis hemp user for a very long time in my life. And I came to it because I had a sister with MS. I came to it because I had a son that was epileptic. I came to it because I had friends who had animals and knew me like, hey, Kim, what can we do alternatively? What can we do naturally for this problem? Well, this is what I do. This is how I treat my epileptic dog. I use GABA, and I use a CBD oil for my dog. Yes, is there such thing as too much CBD oil? There is such a thing. And the beauty of CBD, believe it or not, and this is just so against Big Pharma, is the trick is less is more.
That's right.
Less is more.
right.
It's not about how many hundreds of milligrams. Believe it or not, there is an innate balance in each one of us, and it is different, and that's why we need the verbiage in the conversation. But
Exactly.
it's amazing that we have those cannabinoid receptors everywhere in our body.
Well, we have to make sure our listeners are on the same page as us, because right now I think our level is, like mathematically is in algebra, whereas we really have to start at, 1 + 1 = 2.
Right. And that's-
people
and
need
that's
to
what I
know
wanna bring.
when we talk about cannabis, we are talking about marijuana. And marijuana in the state of California has been legalized, both medicinally and recreationally. So that has been helpful. But when we talk about CBDs and THCs, people don't quite understand what they are. And just real briefly, the THC is like smoking marijuana. You can become addicted to it, and it does have a central nervous system.
Well.
You can't. Wait. Let me finish.
Okay.
You can become addicted, not because of the physical part, but because of the psychological part, just like you would with smoking. And whereas the CBD doesn't have that pronounced effect on people, but the effects that it would have on pain is tremendous.
Yes.
So what we need to do is we need to make sure our listeners understand that the differences here. And then when we talk about Schedule 1 drugs, Schedule 1 is totally banned in this country, even from research. And when we're talking about
which in that statement is crazy, because here Bayer has been doing research for years
in Germany. That's
Right.
BAYER,
Right. Okay. Yes.
which is a German
Yes.
company, I
Yes.
believe. And so there are people at NIH and places that do research on marijuana.
Yes.
But, it's pretty limited.
Yes.
And right now we need a lot of research. But the first thing that needs to be done is we need to take advantage of Bayer's need to get it scheduled from a Schedule 1 to a Schedule 2 drug. And if they're going to lobby to do that, then the rest of the public needs to turn around and say,
Exactly.
how can we make sure that these laws are put in place so that we can start doing the research and then using it for our population?
As long as it's federally prohibited, that's not going to happen.
Well, and the thing is this, see, and that's again to understand the wave is happening, because it is happening in the United States, and it's a little step at a time. And yes, cannabis marijuana is a negative word in how they use it.
Yes.
Cannabis is what the plant is called. Yes, there are different strains of cannabis, and in those different strains of cannabis, they have higher levels of THC or higher levels of CBD. And in that, certain strains are going to give you different benefits. Could you still smoke a CBD strain? You sure can smoke a CBD strain. So it's not the consumption. You're right. It's about understanding which of those components do what. Because if you had cancer, you would want a blend of both CBD and THC, because the information is showing that the CBD helps to modulate the immune system, and the THC actually kills cancer cells.
And when we're talking about that, here's the dichotomy. When you have a patient who might be using the cannabis to relieve some of their symptoms from their disease or from the side effects from the medication. If you go into the hospital, any hospital in the United States, the doctor, the nurses cannot give you cannabis because it's against the law.
Well, you're in Big Pharma's house.
That's right. So therefore,
so we got to encourage others to create facilities.
Well, the big thing to do is just get the change from Schedule 1 to Schedule 2. Instead of, where I have my patients who are pain management patients and I get them off of the opiates and they're away from the addiction, they are getting pain relief, but yet if they end up going into the hospital,
they only have the drugs,
or a nursing home even, they can't use the cannabis.
And so that's part of our focus. That's where I would definitely want to focus my energy then, is to make sure that pathway of law and regulation changes. Because I would hate to, like I said, I hate it today because you're right. I can't go to the hospital and say, I have cancer and I want to treat it this way. Will you take care of me? No, because if I don't do their standard of care, the doctor's hands are tied. And the doctor's hands have been tied for generations due to Big Pharma. So that's where we need to start. And you're right. We need to make sure that when the legislation and things are going through, that we understand them and make sure we have the right people there, the right verbiage to make sure that those things are going to be to our advantage. Because right now they are looking at strains of a hemp strain that they're going to classify it now. It's been classified as a food. So by doing this, the legislation is changing. There's some, and there's a lot of smart people out there, and that's what I want to bring. I want to bring that to it because I sit and read these different articles and think to myself, it's really important that people understand. Like there was an article talking about just labeling it industrial hemp. We don't want to tie our hands, and it's important. It's so crazy that we have to fight for something so good for our economy and our well-being and our health. That's the part that just angers me. Big Pharma doesn't have this fight. Big Pharma walks in and takes over and tells us what we're going to do, how we're going to take it. We don't have a choice in the matter. So I would like to be able to always have, and yes, thank God I live in California, that I had the ability to take care of my family with the choices I wanted to make for them, as opposed to the only option Big Pharma gave us, which were hardcore drugs.
If they change the from cannabis to a Schedule 1 to Schedule 2, it also opens the door to research.
Yes.
And
the research is there. The research is so there,
but,
though.
It's here.
It's not. It's not because Bayer has done the research.
Yeah, but they're doing. Big Pharma does research to their benefit.
That's true. But the
and
bottom
that's
line
why
is they've done it.
I want to be able to look at research and analyze it and make sure. And like all of us do, it's called evidence-based.
Yes.
And so our treatment plans are set up for it to have good research around the world, not just from one company, and that's what we need. In
all of our medicine, because Big Pharma's not been doing that. Their stuff's not evidence-based. There's so much of their drugs, the first 7 years they're out on the market, it's called human guinea pigs. And, it's disgusting when, I don't watch TV. I get the antenna, but I don't watch cable. I don't have cable. And when we do watch the local to watch like news or whatever's going on that way, it disgusts me how many commercials are on about this drug, that drug, this drug, that. All the time.
Every evening news,
yes.
CBS,
that's
ABC,
the whole thing
NBC,
is we just need transparency. Just transparency. Because we've seen, because I've been in the natural industry, we've seen the literature and the testing where these corporations have come in and said, we're going to test, where do you think Valium came from? Valium came from the whole principle of valerian root and creating something that they could synthetically make that they could now control and do. Well, you know what? We've learned on the other side, of course, they're not going to show this, that altering those genes, altering the DNA, altering the chemical makeup of plants doesn't make them better. Most of the time it makes them toxic because they were trying to make synthetic cannabinoids and people were dying and getting sick from it. So you have to understand. That's the thing, is we need the transparency 100%. And it's what's really sickening in all of this is the industry, the agencies that are supposed to be, the FDA, the CDC, all that are supposed to be helping this, are the ones that are backpedaling and feeding the lobbyists to make sure that their stuff is getting through. So, yes, look at who you vote into Congress and your Senate and your representatives. But again, none of that matters if we don't have the right verbiage. And unfortunately, the seniors were fed the reefer madness propaganda. They came from a generation where that was that was from all being. And it was propaganda to control. So again, they even need to understand what it is. You're right. What are we talking about? And that's why, like I said, articles or doctors that are out there to make sure we just encourage our seniors to ask those questions, but then have the right response. Because like you said, it can be simple as one of the companies that I really like out in the industry is called CW Hemp. And it stands for Charlotte's Web. And they were one of the
use
ones.
Charlotte's Web.
Yes. Me too. I love it. I love their products. They were one of the ones that were asked, that were begged, we need help with this child who was a severe epileptic. And it changed her life. And they have. And they fought the industry. And they're fighting the industry. And it's hard. You're right. They don't want that. But again, the integrity's there. And these brothers are working to make sure that we do that. And that's why I want to help facilitate people like that. I want to make sure, and they are available in many places. You can get it directly from them. But let me tell you, they do a little capsule, a concentrated capsule that my daughter uses for her menstrual cramps. And without that capsule, she can miss 2 days because her cramps can be that bad to the point where she's debilitated. Yet one of those little soft gels and a little cream rubbed into her abdomen, and off to work she goes.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. Have you read today's Daily News?
No.
There's a big article in there on cannabis. And what they've been finding is that some of these, I don't know whether they're manufacturers or what they are, but they're beginning to find that there are bacteria.
Exactly.
And that's what's happening now.
Well, it's called shine the light. Okay? And when you
Yes.
shine the light into the thing, there's a lot of things in this industry, and I've been saying this for years to the people that I do speak with. My concern is this: when you go into a place, first off, you need to know those things. Because if you went in there and they used chemicals to grow that cannabis is no better than the trash off the street.
Could be poison.
You're darn right, especially with some of these
Exactly.
neurotoxins. So I think it's not a bad thing. Again, and that's where same thing. You walk in, and I believe it was July 1st the law changed where they actually have to have paperwork. Stating what any of those things, microbials, funguses, anything like that that's present, and what the actual percentage of components, all the components, not just THC and CBD, but all the other cannabinoid factors.
That's why my son has to be so careful when he goes and replenishes his shop.
You know what it is like, Barb? It's just like back in the days with the moonshine. People made some stuff that killed you. That's why we need to encourage the right education, support the right people that are making that difference. Because there's good growers out there. Again, California, we kind of got ripped off in the last bill because we lost it. It's kind of going to go to Big Pharma to grow. We kind of tied some of our little guys' hands with legislation and laws and taxes and things like that. So, but again, it's supply and demand. So the more we can educate the seniors and the consumers about the right verbiage and the right things, and that some of this stuff is available right now, like CW Hemp's products. You can get them just about anywhere, but they can be so simple to use to rub in for pain, even if they're on an opioid. That's the whole thing. We don't have to worry about a side effect.
You know what's interesting? I was at a guest speaker at the Newcomers Club yesterday at a friend of mine's home, and there were about 15 women there, and they're all up in age. There were maybe 2 young ones in there. And we got to talking about cannabis, marijuana. And there were 5 elderly women sitting at the table I was sitting at, and we were talking about it. And they are all for it. They use it whenever they can get it.
The key is to take the stigmatism away, because that's what it is, right?
Yes.
It's a stigmatism because you choose that over an opiate.
Well, I told them that my son has a dispensary, and 3 of them wanted his information on where they could go.
Because you want quality product.
Yes.
Just like anything you're going to purchase.
And he has to grow some of his own to make sure he gets it. And
it is a weed. It grows pretty easy, but people have taken it and tweaked it because they want bigger, better, and more.
He's tried to get permit. He tried to get a state permit, and the state
Not
said,
little guy.
no,
Nope.
you've got to have a county permit first. Well, he went to the county, and they said, no, you've got to have a state permit one. So he's underground again.
Exactly.
which is absolutely ludicrous.
Because in this case, the big guys want to make sure that manufacturing is only done by them. And again, that's why we need to look and read something before you vote for it. If you don't read all the verbiage in something, please don't vote for it, because that last marijuana law took away so many things, and it just made the system more clouded.
That's true, but I'm 150% for it. It has saved my life, literally.
And that's what we just want to make sure, that it's something that's always available to somebody, and that we start to understand it for what it is, because it is one of the most amazing plants in the world.
It is.
You can eat it. You can make clothes from it. You can make fuel from it. You can make paint from it. You can make cement with it. You can make
rub it on
drugs. You
your
can rub it
skin
on. You can
and
inhale
lose
it.
the pain.
Exactly. When you watch a guy that has severe Parkinson's or severe something that way, spasm, Tourette's, whatever it might be, and you watch him smoke, and within minutes he's completely sitting there normal, you can't tell me you can't have this, because we say, the federal government says it's illegal. In my opinion, come on,
I
let's
agree.
look at,
I agree.
You
Well, we
force
need
us
to
in
take
one.
another break, don't we?
Alrighty.
I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host, Dr. Jean Dorio, on your hometown station, KHTS.
There's a classic diner in town that combines old-fashioned dining with a hip 21st century menu. They call it trendy nostalgia. They call it Kathy's Deli. Kathy's Deli is a classic diner. Homemade jams, freshly baked breads, and even unique flavored coffee creamers made on site. Experience the fresh, new, yet old-fashioned taste of your local hometown diner. Serving traditional and unique breakfast and lunch delights every day from 7 to 3. Kathy's Deli on Lyons Avenue off Wayman Court.
Bob, I don't believe you.
You're jaded, Blanche.
Read my lips, Bob. You've had a history of exaggeration.
It's true. They're building Castaic High School.
Castaic High, like in Castaic, California.
That's right, Blanche.
Prove it, Bob.
Go to your computer, type in CastaicHighProject.com, and get free and frequent updates.
What's that web address again?
CastaicHighProject.com.
With fervor, like you really mean it.
CastaicHighProject.com.
KHTS strives to give the Santa Clarita Valley all the information they need. And when our computers aren't working the way they should, we call Resurgence, your true source for IT. Resurgence provides outstanding customer service while also providing the highest technical ability. They strive to do what is best to improve and protect your business. For more information on Resurgence, call 349-4114 or go to resurgenceit.com.
Finding the right auto body shop can feel like a never-ending search.
It's more than a job, it's a hobby.
Caesar, owner of Body Shop 661, your one-stop body shop.
Out here in Santa Clarita, I like seeing my cars driving around. It's really a passion.
More than just repairs. Body Shop 661. Trusted, reliable, respected for over 16 years in the Santa Clarita Valley. Visit bodyshop661.com or give them a call, 661-251-2252.
Now FM 98.1 FM and AM 1220, your hometown station.
Will you still need me? Will you still feed me when I'm 64?
Welcome back to the Senior Hour. I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host, Dr. Jean Dorio, on your hometown station, KHTS. And we're speaking with Kim Wall, who's an alternative medicine advocate, and we've been talking about cannabis and the good it is for your body, as opposed to opioids.
Well, again, the opioids, we've seen what they've done. I mean, like, what is, I don't even know what the number is, something crazy, like so many people so often are dying from them. I mean, it's some crazy number. I can't even think of that. It's just depressing. And you know, like you were saying, you know, with the whole hospital thing, you're right. We have to change the thought process of the people that we send to Washington to represent us, because you can't tell me when you read an article about some veterans who took into their own hands and researched cannabis and found the strains that worked for them for their post-traumatic or their sleep or their anxiety or their pain, whatever it was, and they got off the drugs that the government was giving them. They lose their benefits from the government because they I can't believe that. That's the part that angers me. Let's just, and it's all about everything in our world right now. It's about the hate. It's about the bullying. It's about everything. It's not about that. It's about take a step back. If this works for you and you're not hurting anything, or why can't you make that choice? Why does the government have to tell me you choose this way or you don't choose at all? Because let me tell you, somebody who is paid into insurance, I've been insured since the moment I came into this world, because my father was LAPD and we had insurance. I've been insured my whole life. To think of the money that was sent into that system and what I've actually taken out, because see, like we were saying, I use my spendable income. I don't go in and get a $5 copay on my stuff I buy at the health food store. I'm paying for that. It's out of my pocket expense. I'm using cannabis for my pain. My doctor's not. I'm not getting a prescription for that, which there should be that option, or where I could go with that. It's about cost. So we need to make sure that things stay within that range. But again, we need to make sure that the quality in which these people are getting is going to be that. And I think there's still a lot to shuffle out with all of this. It's all new. There's lots.
There's a lot of things. One of the things I did was I was an analytic chemist before I went to medical school to earn enough money, and I analyzed drugs, and I had to make sure they were within certain specs. So I used the U.S. Pharmacopoeia to, in a lab, big companies would send us their drugs, and we take an average, and just to show that it met government requirements. But for cannabis right now, we're not seeing a whole lot of that. We need to have a pharmacopoeia for cannabis as well to assure that there's no poison, toxins in it, that the right amount is in it, and it's being used in the right way.
Because the crazy thing is this, we don't have that.
We don't have
and
that.
Yet millions and millions of people have been cured and healed. So it shows us that that's important, because I would want quality of anything I consumed, food, water, medicine, anything I consume. But it does show you that even in dirty weed, there's amazing healing, which is crazy. It just shows you what the power of the cannabinoids in the body does. And we're just now entering into this whole dynamic of cannabinoids in the system. And that's where, again, we need to understand, why does it work this way and why does it help this person? Well, obviously there is an issue with their mind or their intestinal tract that this nutritional supplement, because that's what it is, we're supplementing the body.
Well, it's interesting. Probably 90% of my son's clients are seniors and veterans.
And he's fighting to give them a good product.
Yes,
when he has the base to support him financially, yet he has to struggle. Are we living in, where are we living right now? This ain't America that that I thought I lived in, because that's the way it should be. He's not doing something illegal. He is working within the parameters of the United States, the laws of California. And we should honor people like that are doing something and they're making a difference. And we should encourage him to have lectures, and we encourage him to go into senior centers and places, because he's probably full of so much information.
He has done that.
Yeah.
Great.
He has done that.
Because that's what's going to change it.
Yeah, and he has said, Mom, it's amazing what people don't know.
Yeah.
But just don't
on
know.
Kim's Cannabis Corner today,
That's
we
right.
certainly got a lot.
Corner.
Yes.
We're sponsored by Advanced Audiology and Comfort Keepers in Home Care. Listen to us next week on the Senior Hour. Now go and enhance your quality of life.